So guys, today I made a video about exhaust system I installed recently, so the Ramos race exhaust, but I also wanted to talk about the car in general. So how does it compare to the original M2 I had, used to have 2 years ago, and how does it compare to the Porsche Cayman I used to have last year. So you know, I would say that I'm really in love with BMW and especially with M2. So when I sold my M2, original M2, which was a full performance package, so it was performance suspension, carbon parts and all the rest, the steering wheel, the exhaust, the full exhaust, I really love the car. So I really enjoyed it for 1.5 years, and actually I really regret selling it. It was a great value. I didn't buy a new, I bought it used at the dealership, so it had around 6,000 kilometers, so like 4,000 miles or something. At the time it was my first sports car. Like I used to have the 3 Series BMW F30, and I enjoyed it a lot, but it was like a simple 2-liter car. So it was my first sports car, the M2. I bought it in 2017, and I really enjoyed it. It was like super sporty, especially on this M performance suspension. But it was very low, it was pretty hard, you know, for everyday driving. And I started going to track, to Moscow Raceway, about 2-3 times per month. And I started to learn track driving, and I had several problems with the original car. You know, the brakes, because I didn't know how to drive properly, I overheated the brakes very easily. Like the blue calipers are very small, the discs were quite thin as well, and I used to overheat it very quickly. So that was one like a big problem. The motor itself, it was okay, even for a amateur driver like me, like a novice driver. The motor was okay, so the oil wasn't really a problem. So the oil temperatures were constantly below 130, I would say. But you know, when it was warm, around 30 outside, 30 degrees, I used to have big problems, you know. After 2 laps, I had around 130 degrees, and it didn't go down, you know. The main problem with the N55 engine, it doesn't cool down too quickly. And also from the beginning, apart from these 2 issues with the motor and the brakes, from the beginning I didn't like the motor itself too much. You know, it pulls like hell until 120 kilometers per hour, but then it just dies off, you know. And yeah, now I understand that the motor was quite nice, but you know, S55 is much better, but we will come back to that later. I really loved the original M2, but at the same time, sometimes I hated it, you know, because in Moscow in spring, there are a lot of holes on the road, you know. You can damage your car very easily. Like in March, it's a very harsh ride, and if you have performance suspension, it's several times, you know, harsher than a general city driving suspension. So I wasn't enjoying the car very much, because I had problems with height as well. So I was scraping my garage floor sometimes, you know. Even little scratch made me very unhappy, you know. And I was at that time I was on the 7th floor, so you know, I was lazy guy, and I didn't go, and I could have set the suspension higher, you know, and maybe softer, but I thought it's too complicated, and I didn't touch it that much. Yes, so I was a bit unhappy with the hard ride I had. So summarizing, there were like big two issues for me: the motor and the brakes, and several small issues like harsh ride. What else? The exhaust I really loved. How the N55 sounded. It sounded really nicely, you know. The car, like I didn't have a proper car before, you know, and for me it was like heaven to have an exhaust which sounded so nicely. And the M Performance exhaust is definitely a recommended part for your car. For original M2 it's very low price, and it sounds really nice. But I can't say that it sounded you know, too loud or even loud enough for me. Like it was a nice sound, and from outside it was a very nice deep sound, but it was a bit quiet for me. And I lacked the vibration, you know. For example, I can compare it to the current exhaust I have, Remus Race with mid-pipe. Yes, but we will come back to it when I will discuss the current car I have and how I'm happy with it. So now it's going to be a little bit darker because I'm entering the garage. Just one second. Здравствуйте, 489. So the original M2 was a really nice car. Really nice. It was like it gave such a sporty feel, such a satisfying feel of control and of precision, of sportiness. It was firm, yes, the suspension was firm, but actually you can change it. So what else about the original M2? I really love the looks of M2. M2 is all about the looks as well. It's a great car, great looking car for me. So, you know, powerful, so sporty, so the lines are so nice. And I used to have a white with blue-red striping, like M color striping, and it was amazing, like so conceptual looking. But yes, because I was using the car for track a lot, mainly I had to look for something else, either upgrade the car and invest about, I don't know, maybe $10,000 or whatever euros equivalent in upgrades, or simply look for another car. And at that time I was really interested to try Porsche. You know, I heard stories about Porsche being superb, like superior to all the other cars. I was very interested in Porsche Cayman 981S, and at that time I had a very good proposal in Kazan, so I had a short travel to Kazan. But before that, before buying that, of course, I did a test drive. I test drove a Boxster S, and I loved it so much. It was so much more comfortable than the M2 I had. And it was much more, I would say, you know, it's more like a more clever car, you know. It was mid-engined, it is mid-engined, it handles nicely, you know, during cornering you do not fight with the car. And actually it feels a lot more planted than M2, because M2 has engine at the front and Cayman has in the middle, so like at the back, so it presses down the back wheels, and you feel so planted. You can just throttle, full throttle all the time, like even on Cup 2 tires in the city, you know, when they are not warm. And so I decided, why not? I sold my car. It wasn't really a good sale, but I had a good deal for the Cayman. So I had a yellow Cayman S 981, 325 horsepower, yeah, and atmospheric motor. So it was a completely new experience for me, and the car felt so special. I really like Cayman. I like Cayman. The platform itself, any generation, and 981 in particular. But Cayman didn't solve my problems, you know. some people say that it's okay, like the brakes are okay, the engine is okay, but I don't know, for me it didn't work. So the brakes are very small. If you look at the disc of Cayman 981, the discs are very small. The car is lighter, yes, it's 200 kilograms lighter, and you can feel it everywhere in the city, on the track, everywhere during cornering. But the brakes were, you know, poor. I would say that the brakes on Cayman are poor. And these small 4-piston calipers, small discs, overheated quickly, especially when you put race pads like Endless ME20. Like it's a disaster. Like 2 laps and the brakes are gone. You don't feel the pedal anymore. No pedal. Like it disappears. You boil the liquid, the brake liquid. And I used the top level, you know, brake liquid. But the brakes, yes, the engine overheated too. Like after 2-3 laps, when it's quite hot outside, I had the same problem like as I had with M2. So the engine overheated, and I had to wait for it to cool down. Yes, it cooled down, but yeah, I wanted to push, you know, many laps and then cool down. So it was okay. I changed the brakes, the brake discs to Gyro disc in the front, and to some other custom, not custom, but I don't remember the name of the producer. So I changed all the discs, and it became almost okay. Like if you don't push it too hard, if you do 2 laps and then 1 cool down lap afterwards, it's fine. But actually, you know, the motor only allowed 2 laps. The brakes, you know, they were like, yeah, they were doing the job, but not really. And also, I had to deal with it somehow, you know, to be able to drive properly. I had to deal with it. So I ordered AP Racing Kit for not for Cayman, but for AP Racing Kit Pro 5000R. So it is a top system for amateurs. I would describe it. But actually, it was a bad idea because I had to sell this system. It was a bit overkill for the car, and I had to sell it also because I decided to buy M2. At first I didn't buy it to replace Cayman. I thought I would keep both cars because they're different, and I could you know, drive Cayman in the city and use oh, maybe I can use some light for you to see me better, but it doesn't matter actually. How do I look? But finally I decided that I drive that you know, that much that I don't need many cars. You know, I used to have 4 cars at a time because I was choosing, and was I always wanted to have like a BMW and a Porsche, but you know, actually it's too much money for, you know, my little driving. So I decided to sell Porsche. Actually, also I didn't like the seats in Porsche Cayman. I had base seats. It's you know, these seats are terrible. Like I got used to them after I don't know, several thousand kilometers, but really they are rigid, no almost no support, and terrible form, you know, not anatomic at all. What else about the Cayman? Yeah, I loved how it looked, but really it felt a bit old. It was 2014, so I had to pay for warranty from Porsche, extended warranty, and I had to pay big insurance, you know, twice that amount on a new BMW I have now, which is like 2 times more expensive. So actually the Cayman insurance was about 8 times more expensive than BMW. Don't know why, but that's how it works in Russia. So considering the financial factor and the fact that I need 1 car to do all the jobs and all the tasks, and considering that current M2 has big brakes, has a superb engine which doesn't overheat in any circumstances, even if you have stage 2 with more than 500 horsepower, and considering the super comfortable bucket seats, not bucket, but I don't know, stock M Sport seats, which have very nice comfort, very nice support, and like I like them a lot. They're not light or not track focused or whatever, but I'm not planning to change them, you know. For my level of driving and for my purposes, is a great seat. So yes, so I bought the M2. I get a very nice financing from yes, and financing as well. So for Porsche, financing is twice as expensive in terms of rates, almost as for BM. And BMW gives me a car, just, you know, just buy it, Vladimir. So I bought it. Yes, no prepayment, nothing, just the car and pay some monthly amount. So yes, the car was more expensive than original M2 because I bought it in May when there was no support from the group, but now there is some support and it's almost the same price as a new original M2. But at that time, in the beginning of the season, I wanted the car, so I had to pay a bit of premium. So what can I say now? Today I drove about, let me check how much, almost 4,000 kilometers now, and I've been to about 10 track days, maybe 7 track days, not 10, and I'm really happy with the car, really happy with everything, you know. The stock car I didn't like that much. I changed the suspension to M Performance. I installed the ground control camber plates for track use, but in the city you don't need it. But in the city I needed M Performance suspension, because the suspension is so much better than the stock one, and it's so cheap, you know. I bought it for $1,500, so roughly, I don't know, 1,200 euros or whatever. So it was very cheap, and it was available from a friend of mine. And also one last bit I installed recently was the Ramos Race, full Ramos Race cutback exhaust system. So it is a custom mid-pipe with small resonators and a Ramos Race back part. It is actually from original M2, from a friend of mine in Kazan, but I think it's no different from the competition one. It's the same two resonators at the back. So so you can tell that I didn't like the suspension when stock, because it was too soft, too wobbly, and it was lazy on directional change. You know, M2 is kind of a heavy car. You understand this when you buy a Cayman, and I wanted it to be you know, sharper and more sporty, like I had the M2 before. So I installed the M Performance suspension. Is the best value suspension for the money, on my opinion, you know, and I'm really happy with it. I had some problems with installation, but now finally I found a nice place. They installed it properly, and it is in a medium setting now, so it is not super rigid and not super comfortable, so it is like in between, and I like it very much. The height is exactly the way I specified to the guys, and I can use any garage, any like in any city driving conditions. I am fine with it. I'm going to swap for stock suspension during winter times, but now I'm very happy. So the suspension is a definitely recommended item to buy. The M Performance exhaust is not yet in Russia for M2 competition. I installed the Ramos, so the custom exhaust from my friend. It sounds great, like it's the best exhaust I had so far, and I spent about 2,000 euros for it, used, and I'm really happy with the result. I have carbon tips, 102 millimeters, and they're so nice. Looks like gorgeous, much better than the M Performance. I don't know how it sounds, the M Performance, for it's like titanium or whatever for the new M2 competition, but really I'm happy with stainless steel, yeah. And especially if you consider the price for the new M Performance exhaust is way higher than I paid, even higher than the Ramos exhaust as new. So what else? In terms of the car, yes, the S55 engine is just insane. You know, I'm happy with the stock one. It's not very powerful. Yeah, I know it can be much better, but I don't want to deal with any, you know, updates to the software or any tuning, even, you know, boot mode or whatever. I just want to keep it stock for a while, at least, maybe 2 years or 3 years. Well, I have a warranty now, and I don't want to mess up. So I'm happy with the current setup. I have enough power for anything. I have nicely sounding exhaust, like the best exhaust I had. I have great suspension, great working camber plates, ground control camber plates on track. I have Cup 2 tires, 285 at the back and 245 at the front. I would like to change for bigger tires, of course, in the front. But I bought used, not used, new ones, but quite old from my friend at a cheap price. So yeah, it made sense. So yes, the car is very quick on the track. I'm really satisfied. The brakes are okay, you know, they never overheated, like I never lost a pedal. But after 5-6 laps in a row, so it's a lot. I never did before, but after 5-6 laps, you have about 500-600 degrees on brake discs, degrees Celsius, I mean. So it's quite hot. Yes, I think if you change for proper two-piece discs, or you just like do 2 or 3 laps and then do proper cool-down laps with constant speed without you know, depressing the brake pedal too much, that would work great. And actually, that's what I plan to do, you know. I plan to use stock rotors because they are very cheap. Like, they are, I don't know, 2-3 times cheaper than the race two-piece rotors. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think it's reasonable to use stock because stock is more than enough, you know, for track use. And I use it with ME20 endless brake pads, which are very aggressive. So, if you use less aggressive pads, it may work even better, or you can control, you know, the block or the wheel much better as well. So what else? I'm really happy with the engine. Like, the original M2 engine was a bit weak, I told you before. Like, after 120 it didn't pull that much, and you know, the feeling on the pedal was a bit artificial, you know. It was like you put your leg on a bubble, you know, something like too inflated, too boosted. Like, this engine as stock is great. It feels like a Atmo engine almost, and it has 2 turbines. It has more than enough power, a lot of torque. So it feels great. It pulls, it feels great, it sounds great. I don't know, many people say that N55 is the way to go, it's the best sound, wow. But really, like, I put Remus race, like in stock it didn't sound at all because it was so you know, blocked from the factory. But now Remus race sounds much louder than before. I like the sounds. It's a racy sound. S55 is a very racy, metallic, raspy sound with a lot of vibration, like what I wanted, you know. People have different tastes, that's normal. I just love how S55 sounds. And what else? Yeah, so in terms of future upgrades, maybe I will buy some Apex discs, you know, because they're wider and lighter, and give more, you know, clearance for the calipers. But that's the least I'm thinking about. So for now, I think I'm happy with the car. So I need to train on the track and improve my times. Yes, so actually this season I already improved like 5 seconds from my Cayman and from M2 time, 5 or M2 even more, you know. It's a lot. And I enjoyed the M2. I thought M2 would be, you know, a shame after Cayman, you know, but actually it works so well on the track and gives you so much more emotion and feel on the track, especially with the new exhaust. Yeah, but Cayman is a very nice car, I love it, but I prefer M2. I prefer M2. I just love how it feels, so sporty, so solid, you know, so powerful. Just my type of car. And I really love the looks. So I'm the M boy, M lover guy. Yeah, so all things just you know, work for me. The financing, the price of the car, the way it feels, the way it looks, everything, you know. I just like M cars. So yes, I don't say that Porsche are bad cars. Porsche are excellent cars. Yeah, I would love to own, you know, a second car like Cayman or 911 or GT3 911 potentially, but for now I'm really happy with M2 competition and I don't plan to change it. Yeah, finally I found an ideal car for me, and actually I stopped looking the websites or looking for some you know, car reviews or whatever. I'm just happy with the car. Okay guys, it was a long video and a lot of talking. I don't know if it was interesting, but that's my experience with the 3 cars I used to have and I have now, the M2 competition, and I'm really happy with it. So hope it was useful. Bye.